that's what we're all here for. Now, before I turn it over to somebody who knows a lot more about the Tibetan situation in particular, I just wanted to address a couple of the issues that have been appearing in the media over the few weeks that the Tibetan struggle has been in the mainstream news. It's been very frustrating and disheartening to read some of the opinions of some scholars and reporters and others in the community who are attacking things like the integrity of the Dalai Lama and the Tibetan monks, and portraying Tibet to be almost a militant activist subculture that's trying to rise up and overthrow a so-called stable Chinese state and economy and everything else. Others write about the idealism that peace activists portray Tibetan Buddhism to be, and point to a very dark and violent past, a time when previous Dalai Lamas suppressed Tibetans themselves and others living in the Tibetan region who were not of the Buddhist faith, and all these things. So what I wanted to just make clear tonight was that we're not trying to justify one side of a conflict or another. We're not trying to say that any one side has a more just cause than the other side, because sure, there has been violence, there has been oppression, there has been questionable tactics taken over the course of history in Tibet and China and everywhere else in the world. I just wanted to kind of start off by saying we're not here to talk about the past mistakes of history or the past conflicts. We're talking about a crisis which is very real in the world today, here and now, and an oppression of a people, a violent repression of a people who are standing up for their rights, to their freedom to be self-determining, to their freedom to practice their religion without fear of persecution. The situation, from what we can gather, and of course the information we have access to in the West is filtered, but what is clear is that there is a violent repression of human rights happening in the world today. And it doesn't matter who is the agent of suppression and who are the victims. People say, why are we getting upset about the situation in Tibet when the people of Palestine, in millions of numbers, have been violently repressed for so long, and the world stands by idly? Or in the Congo, or in Darfur, or anywhere in the world where violent repression is happening today. We're not saying that the Tibetan people are any more worthy or any more deserving of peace and justice than anyone else in the world. We are just simply saying that this is a violent repression that must stop, as all violent repression of everybody fighting for their rights everywhere must stop. And so with that in mind...
Hear, hear.
With that in mind, I would just like to point out that we are an international community standing in solidarity with our brothers and sisters who need us to stand up for them at a time when the people in their country are not standing up for their rights and their dignity as humans. Just like we also stand for the people of Palestine, just like we also stand for all of the people in Africa who have been victims of decades upon decades of colonial suppression. Just like we stand in solidarity with the First Nations people here on our own continent, Turtle Island, whose culture we have pushed to the margins and darn near exterminated. We stand for justice and we stand for peace. And tonight we recognize a conflict happening in a very isolated region of the world, in Tibet, where it is questionable exactly what is going on. What we know is that there is violence, there is arson, there is looting, there is murder, and I personally, I have a problem with that. It doesn't matter that it's the Chinese government. It would be the same if it was the Canadian government. It would be the same if it was the American government. It would be the same if it was the Dalai Lama himself suppressing his own people. We stand for justice and we stand for peace tonight.